took the bundle on the road, and we've revived it at the special request of Coventry Refugee and Migrant Centre, and we're delighted to have done so. The story you're going to see and hear and experience this afternoon is a true story. It's a story that was given to us by Adila, which is not her real name. We keep her identity secret for obvious reasons. We know Adila, we know her family, her 3 delightful children, her 4 delightful children now. We've attended both of Adila's tribunals to date, where she's pleaded for refugee status, and she gave us full access to her Home Office documentation, full access to her bundle. She gave us the most intimate details of her life and why she had to flee to the UK for sanctuary. And we hope that we honour her work. She has seen it several years ago. The school scene that you'll see is exactly as given to us by a remarkable head teacher of a remarkable primary school in the West Midlands. It's the school that Adila's children attended when they first landed in the West Midlands. You will have teachers and head teachers like this in Coventry. Again, they deserve to be upheld. Now that scene is as that head teacher gave it to us. On the train coming back from the interview with her, we both said, we don't need to create any fiction for that scene. It's written itself. What you hear and what you see in that scene is what that head teacher told us on that day. The bundle. Once in a time, not so long ago, in a far-off land,
there lived a young girl called Adila.
She was loved dearly by both her father and mother, who knew they'd named their daughter well. Adila, gentle and good-natured.
But as she grew older, she saw that things were not right between her mother and father.
They drank,
They fought,
and they argued,
and they shouted. And one day her father said to her, Adila, listen, you're going to be coming with me. You're coming with me to my homeland, to Chechnya.
Disbelief and bewilderment. But Papa, Russia is my home. I was born here, so was Mama.
Her father's words were like steel splinters in the air. Listen, Mama's going to stay here in Russia. That is her homeland. But you will come with me to my homeland, to Chechnya.
They were going to leave everything and everybody and move to Chechnya. But she only knew Russian. How would she manage there? In the shops, on the buses, in school. Her thoughts were in Russian, her precious books, even her mama's comfort words, all in Russian.
And so at the age of 13, Adila began a new life in Chechnya.
Life in Chechnya was difficult to master.
Less of an adventure and more of an ordeal.
At first, they lived at her aunt's house, her papa's sister, with their 2 cousins. But they taunted Adila when she tried out the Chechen tongue.
They said, you are not like us, you do not speak proper Chechen, brusky bitch.
So she became tongue-tied and nervous. When she said these things to Papa, he replied,
They are wrong, daughter. I am Chechen and therefore so are you. It follows the father's line.
Now, Adila's aunt had 2 boys. And as everybody knows, boys are far too special to help with cooking and cleaning and all things domestic. So this fell to Adila. Often Mamochka had read her the story of Cinderella, and she'd always felt the same rush of relief when Cinderella's fate became the happy one. Now, here she was, a real-life Cinders, with no fairy godmother in sight, and she doubted very much that a handsome prince who would treat her fairly was anywhere to be found in this land.
cleaning floors and learning to show respect for the menfolk by standing up whenever one of them entered the room. One day, when she'd finished all of her household chores and thinking she was alone, she sat at the kitchen table and ran her fingers over the order clock.
Picking out the imaginary notes in a Chopin melody.
As her aunt saw, and that book said,
I would chop those stupid fingers right off now if I didn't need you to skivvy, but that would never do.
and her aunt and her cousins used their vicious tongues to lash and belittle her.
So our hoity-toity Russian cousin can play the piano, eh? How useful. How necessary. Better to learn to cook, girl. Husband would prefer a bowl of gownish any day over a piano recital, believe me.
Of course, she may not wish to take a husband.
Adela, you do not choose to choose. Now, this is a lesson better learned young. Where are you going now? No, you're not leaving this house improperly dressed. What are you now? 14. Men will look. Woman, without a headscarf, you will bring shame on this house. People will say, the menfolk in there, they cannot control their women. Come a little closer. You've done something? To your hair! Oh, brother, come and see what this wayward slut of a daughter of yours has done now.
Her father hurried into the room. She could feel his hot tobacco breath on her cheek. He held the length of her hair, buttermilk and honey blonde, and said, "You have cut this, daughter."
Only you little papa to give it shape.
What did I tell you?
That's not allowed.
And still you did it?
Did you, Papa? It's my hair.
Ha!
See? This is what I have to listen to. Her will needs to be broken.
And her aunt grabbed the length of her hair and tongue twisted, yanked and pulled until the tears ran down Adela's cheeks.
Now she cries. She bloody well cries. No pride, no self-respect. Listen, girl, a true Chechen never ever leaks tears. You Russian bombs? You must be born with your bladders very close to your eyes.
But things moved on. Adela did well at school. She enjoyed her time at school, did well in her lessons, and much to her surprise and her father's pride, she won a scholarship to study at the University of Grozny.
So much cooking and cleaning time lost. She's reading. She's always reading.
3 years passed, and at the end of those 3 years, Adela passed every one of the university examinations, and not one Naxar had gone to grease the palm of corrupt university officials. She did it all on her own merits. And so it came to pass that Adela was awarded a degree in corporate law at the University of Grozny.
Naturally, this displeased her Aunt greatly. So, now you have a fancy piece of paper with your name on it. Well, enjoy it while you can, because I'm telling you now, one day soon, you will do nothing more with that degree than sit on it.
But the similar theme was working its way through her life. She got a good job in Grozny. She had colleagues, the esteem of those colleagues. But more than anything else, she now finally had a sense of her own self-worth.
And on her desk, an invitation to a cousin's party at the weekend. She already had the dress. It's hanging on the back of the bedroom door, purple with mauve stripes that wrapped around, all concealing and modest, but oh so feminine, and a headscarf to match.
Come the day of the party, everybody was happy and joyful.
Even her aunts and her cousins. Oh, daughter Adela, perhaps the page has finally been turned.
The menfolk all gathered together and smoked and talked politics.
And the women gossiped and nibbled on however, applause, as is the custom. And then suddenly a man is tugging on her arm, strange against all custom.
The menfolk all gathered round.
The women folk moved away. cigarette smoke, synthetic air freshener, the prayer beads jangling on the windscreen mirror.
And the car sped away along the potholed road to the next village, where her husband-to-be, Hasu, was waiting. And her aunt sat amongst the womenfolk and gloated.
What did I tell her? She may as well rip that degree to pieces, hang it in the privy now for all the good it will do her. Finally, she's one of us, knocks she. Then she reached for yet another piece of halva. Oh yes, sir, there will be children. She's strong and healthy, and her husband, he's a wolf of a man, so the babies, they will come.
Of course, she may not wish to have children.
How exactly is she going to prevent them, eh?
I know, think it if you wish. But don't dare ever say it. It's not the Chechen way.
And so Adela's life as a wife began, as little more than human bondage, with a new mother-in-law even sharper than her aunt. Rise at 6 a.m, prepare breakfast for everyone.
And remain standing until we're all seated.
You wait on table.
Speak proper Chechen, damn you.
You clean the house, you water the plants.
And don't think you ever get to leave this house unless you have my express permission.
Sweep the yard. Feel exhausted. Sleep. Feel sick. Oh, stop complaining, will you? You're pregnant, that is all. And do not say these things in front of the menfolk. It's not decent.
1 year passed. And at the end of that year, Adela gave birth to a baby girl, Busana, a girl in the moon. Oh, how she loved this child, snuggling close to her, breathing in the scent of baby, brazen even, in a display of motherly love.
That is until she learned otherwise. What do you think you're doing, daughter-in-law? Carrying that child around as if she's still attached to you? It is not our way, and the menfolk will feel disrespected, so it will not happen in this house. Oh, and pray for a boy next time. One girl will do.
10 months later, another baby, another girl. Deshi, the golden one, named after the colour of her hair. But her husband, he was angry.
He was screaming, he was vicious, he was vulgar, he was violent.
Shame on you! You bring shame on this house!
Adela cowers, nestles the newborn close, brings Busana between the folds of her dress. The baby whimpers and Busana cries as Adela takes the slap.
Joseph, how mother you are! Now keep those kids quiet, damn you!
Months pass, 18 of them, and at the end, another bundle. Elbrus, the highest mountain in the whole of the Caucasus.
Finally! A son.
And then, whole new chapter of trouble begins. Very different trouble this time.
Asu! Open this door, I know you're in there! Asu! I don't care if the whole village hears. I'll break the door down if necessary. Asu!
Adela sits in the dark, shushing her babies, as her mother-in-law confronts the caller. What is it? Do I know you?
No reason why you should. But I know your son.
Oh, Hasu, you did not hear at the moment. He'll be back tomorrow.
Found another gambling den, has he?
Oh, Hasu does not gamble.
What?
No.
I'd laugh if I wasn't so fucking mad. Now listen, old man. Listen.
I can't hear anything.
No. Well, I can. I can hear the sound of the wolf pack, and he's getting ever closer, and he's baying for Hasu's blood.
Yeah. But this do for a start. There will be more tomorrow. It's from our pensions, you understand?
I don't care where it's from, as long as it ends up back here.
Now Adela knows why there's never any money for toys, for clothes, for downright essentials. But a plan is beginning to hatch. She'll need her father's help though.
Papa, I can't carry on like this. This is no life. You know the problems we're having. Our son with his gambling debts. He owes money to the world and his brother, and I'm afraid for all of us. But I could make money. I could make good money if I could go to Russia and get a law job there.
It's a big ask, daughter.
Do you think I don't know this, Papa? But they'll listen to you.
I'll have a word with her soon. And the father did. He went and he spoke with Sue, spoke with the family. He was gone for many hours, but well, it went better than I expected. Yes, you can go to Russia, but it has to be Moscow, and there are conditions.
Of course! The children will stay here with their father. That way you'll be sure to return, and you will rarely be alone. We have Chechen relatives in Moscow, and they will visit often. And it will only be for a short while. 3 months at the most.
And don't think because you're a lawyer you can go to the law courts and get custody of the children.
You try that. We have you committed to a mental hospital for life.
Go to the police if you wish. See what they'll say.
Have a nice fat envelope of notes ready.
You don't understand us Chechens. We settle family matters within the family, and that is the Chechen way.
And of course, my son, he can always take another wife.
And so Adela said a painful farewell to her children.
And heaved a sigh of relief at the retreating figure of her mother-in-law and husband, and set off for the relative freedom of Moscow.
But with the words of her mother-in-law echoing in her ears.
We're watching you, night and day. And we Chechens, we have a long reach and slender fingers. Just because you're 1,000 miles away, you will be as visible to us as you would be in our own backyard.
Her life in Moscow. She got a good job. But it was a life of working and saving, saving and working.
Sending money back to her soon, but keeping some back.
And all the time, a secret hoard slowly grew and grew.
Until she would return to her husband's home for the very last time to collect her children. She already had the plane tickets, Grozny to Gatwick, a night flight. One way.
With bated breath and a thumping chest, she explains to the children the nature of the adventure they're going to be going on. She has to be wild.
She has to tell lies. Going to see Babushka in Moscow for a holiday.
This was her one chance of escape, and there could be no margin for error.
You pack your backpacks, children, just a few books and a favourite toy, maybe a cuddly toy. No, Deshi, you can't take the pink pony and the doll. Has to be one or the other. You make the decision.
Packing ever more clothes into an already swollen suitcase, because they were going to be leaving so much behind. Because they were not coming back to Grozny.
Ever. On the coach to the airport, Adela looks around for familiar faces. They're on! The relief! The children are buzzing with excitement. Adela's calm on the surface, but beneath, seething with tension and terror. Grozny Airport, the officials, surly, and she thinks suspicious.
Passport!
Yes?
Why so much luggage?
It's a family holiday. 3 children. The UK. The weather. You don't know what to expect. Her voice sounds distant, as if it's coming from elsewhere.
Where will you be staying?
My husband has cousins in London. The departure lounge, 20 minutes, feels more like ours. Adela's almost numb with shock. The children mute, but trusting the adults.
And then finally the flight announcement. Passengers for flight 3542 to London Gatwick go to gate 14.
And they were off!
Settling down in their seats, fastening their safety belts. They were so nervous and tense. But the captain's voice was calm and reassuring. And then the plane suddenly begins to move, just a nudge slowly at first onto the runway. But once it was on the runway, gathering speed, faster and faster, and then lifting high to the night, takeoff! And they were lifting high to a new dawn. Meanwhile, in London, the first ministerial meeting, creating the hostile environment, Home Secretary, what is the precise purpose of this meeting?
The precise purpose of this meeting, Douglas, is to get the immigration figures down.
Immigration, such a difficult subject, so many different categories.
Forget the categories, Douglas. Just get the numbers down. Don't you read the Daily Mail?
Well, of course, we can't use the EU categories, not anymore, so suppose we create a hostile environment.
I like the sound of that. How do we begin?
Well, imagine that you are an asylum seeker.
No, I'd rather not.
Well, if you were, the first thing that you would have to do on entering the country is to put in a claim. And of course,
It's refused.
precisely, when you are now in a legal limbo.
Oh, I like the sound of that. But why?
Well, you see, you've never lodged an appeal.
No, I do not like the sound of an appeal, and neither will the Murdoch press.
Ah, but you see, by lodging an appeal, you are admitting that you are here de facto illegally. Because if you were here legally, you wouldn't have to lodge an appeal.
I like the sound of that.
Right, now they'll all want refugee status, naturally, because that gives them the right to stay here for 5 years and doesn't cost a penny. But supposing we say that we'll regard them all as asylum seekers, that means we'll have to issue them with a DLR. Oh, DLR, discretionary leave to remain.
Leave to remain. Well, that's positively Kafka. Carry on.
Well, the DLR, the discretionary leave to remain, gives them the right to stay here for just 2.5 years, not 5 years. And it's free at the point of entrance, but of course with their tribunals and court cases they're going to be here longer than that, so the DLR has to be renewed. And that's what it's going to cost them.
How much?
Well, £500 per person, and everybody has to pay. So that a woman arriving with 4 children would have to pay £2,500.
How are they going to manage that when they're not allowed to work?
A great deal of difficulty, and they only get the barest minimum state support.
So we could even start to make money out of them?
Good Tory economics, hey, Home Secretary? Right, I can get you a coffee.
White, no sugar, just like the Daily Mail. Now, what does the LR thing pass me again?
Well, as I've explained, Home Secretary, DLR, discretionary leave to remain, gives them the right to stay here for 2.5 years, free at the first instance, but after 2.5 years, it has to be renewed, and that's going to go to cost them.
I am really liking this, Douglas, although I have to say, I don't fully grasp it all.
Neither will I, Teresa.
Oh, Douglas. You keep cutting the figures like this, you can call me Tessa, because I shall triumph.
Triumph, Teresa.
I shall march into cabinet with the
Catterick.
The children befuddled with sleep, Adela adrenaline fueled, funnel into the queue, enter the system, passport control.
Passports, please. Thank you. That's fine, thank you.
She's astonished. He's pleasant. He's even pleasant when she tells him she's here to claim asylum. He issues the immigration card.
Now, this is the immigration card. Now, read it carefully. It has to be completed and it must be accurate. Get it out if you need it, but make sure it is completed and it was accurate.
Thank you, thank you.
Do you have anywhere to stay?
I'll have a friend in London.
Their sole worldly belongings are now coming through the rubber flaps of the carousel. Round and round it goes. Visit, you have to wait for it to come round again. They are amongst the last to leave the baggage hall. The children are perplexed and tired. Mummy, Mummy, is anybody going to be meeting us, Mummy?
Friend, I told you.
This friend of yours, does this friend of yours live near the airport?
She's quite close, yes.
Are we going to be staying with this friend of yours?
For a short while.
Mummy, Mummy, Tessie wants a wee wee.
Elvis, you'll go with her. No, Susanna, stay here till they get back.
She makes for the sign that says arrivals. In the arrivals hall, she looks for the face that she needs to see, but it's not there.
Checks her phone, no message. Sends a text.
She waits. 1 hour becomes 2 hours. Anxiety becomes fear.
The friend will come, she assures the children. And then suddenly, a shudder and a beep. Finally, a text.
Sorry, went to wrong airport by mistake. I went to Heathrow. On my way now. See you soon. Love and kisses. Colleen. The children are frightened. Mummy, Mummy, this friend of yours. Is this friend of yours a woman or a man?
A man.
A man? We go to the home of a strange man?
Yes.
How did you meet this man?
Online. That's how Adela and Khalid met. In Moscow, she'd been cunning, had found ways. Khalid, already a UK citizen, and living here in London, he wanted to meet. Why not? Her choice this time. At first, an electronic affair, Skyping and typing. She likes what she sees, as does he. She likes what he writes. She feels is equal. Trust grows. Love grows. In Moscow they meet. Bliss. They talk, they connive, they conspire for freedom, for a life together with meaning. Here, in the UK.
They move into Carly's bedsit. Well, it's small enough for one, but for 5. The children sleep on narrow mattresses pushed against the wall. And, well, Carly works late every night, so of course in the morning he needs to sleep in. But first thing in the morning, the children are up and about, playing and fighting, screaming and shouting. And Adela, she needs space, time to reorganise her life. Time to decamp to a hospital near Heathrow. But people right there.
Terrace of dilapidation and despair. Adela and the children in one room, a shared kitchen where a man sleeps, blocking the door, locking the door, no access.
Sandwiches. They've got nothing but sandwiches, Adela and the children. The place is crowded and the kitchen is filthy and Adela's the only woman in the house. Months pass.
And then, the offer of a house, somewhere in a northern city, one she's never heard of, but there will be a street with a house where she can begin afresh.
Safe. 20% reduction in immigration by the end of the year.
And franchise out more services to private agencies? For example, G4S, Circle, Clear Springs Ready Homes?
Well,
They take responsibility for both dispersal and disposal. They make money, and we have no direct responsibility for any part of the process.
good.
Then we can begin on the categories.
No categories! Listen, Sean, there's only one category. A body arrives in this country uninvited with no financial means of support and demand of help.
Well, I admire your sense of clarity, Minister.
It's needed.
Oh,
Something the matter, Sherman?
this is coffee.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to warn you. It's out of the jar.
Oh,
Well, austerity, you know, going to be cuts all round. We all have to take our share. However, it is free trade.
it's a fair trade?
Oh, whatever. Now, supposing we say that we won't take any refugees, immigrants, whatever, from any country that we trade with, or any country that we seek to do trade with.
You mean?
Well, like Turkey, Bahrain, Arab Emirates, Nigeria, and all those ambiguous places that seem to be neither one thing nor the other.
Ambiguous places, Minister.
Yes, places like Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Chechnya, that sort of place.
But, Minister, they boil dissidents alive in oil in Uzbekistan.
And don't become a dissident.
Oh, what about freedom of expression?
Think of the trade figures. It's a hard old world out there, you need to man up, Shona.
Indeed, Minister.
Right, now you let me know how many refugees or whatever that we will now not be taking if we don't take any from such countries as I've listed.
Are you saying that our refugee policy is to be driven by a board of trade?
Excellent, Shona. You've got the new initiative in one. Well done.
Well, what about humanitarian principles?
Write an anguished letter to the Guardian if you must, but let me have those figures by Friday.
The Minister.
Listen, Shona. Let me put it to you like this. Supposing you had to choose between waving a plastic flag for a few hours and cheering some tin-pot dictator having a victory parade, or taking a bath in boiling oil, what would you choose?
Well, put like that.
Precisely. Now let me have those figures by Friday, otherwise it will be worse than boiling oil, believe you me.
Yes, Minister. Oh, have you considered having giant wave machines in the channel that would help drive those small boats back into Calais? Or we could export our asylum seekers to some remote Atlantic island for processing.
Well done, Shona! This is what we need! Blue sky thinking, new initiatives, well done!
I was being ironic, Minister.
Yes, the meeting's over. Geoffrey, send up a decent pot of coffee, would you? The Secretary for Waffle and Social Concerns now left the building.
Good afternoon, I'm the welfare officer from CPPP.
That's a charitably privatised provisional provider and on a 0 hours contract.
Now, this is the property, and if I remember rightly, the key does stick a bit. Right. Oh, there we go. I'm afraid the previous occupants left it in a bit of a state. We've done what we can to make it habitable. You might need to open a few windows, get a bit of air going in here. Now, we never know what folks might already have by way of furniture, etc. I'm guessing you don't have very much at all. No? Nothing? Well, they can always put a throw over this sofa, and as you do get your own bits and pieces, this stuff can go out. You just put it in the front garden. It gets collected, eventually. Now, I do need to warn you, the previous people, they left in a bit of a rush, didn't bother to tell us quite a while before we came and checked, and they'd left food in here, so we had infestations in the kitchen and elsewhere. Rats, cockroaches, we've had the teams in to fumigate. Now, bit of a checklist for you to get started on. What do you mean, how soon? As soon as? You've only got 3 months, you know, to get things going. Rightio, here we go. Arrange for an Azure card, find out which shops you can use it in.
And photocopy everything.
Register with a GP, get the children into a school, they'll need a uniform.
And photocopy everything.
Find the local food bank, find the local charities that will help you out with household goods, etc. Apply for refugee status.
And photocopy everything. And all of this has to be done with only a bare knowledge of English and no access to the internet.
For your bundle. You understand?
Meanwhile, the house has got to be kept clean and well maintained. But the children are beginning to miss their friends back in Chechnya. Khalid's visits help, but of course the children are still wary of him, and little Elbrus is pining for his abandoned mom.
School! That's what the children are needing. For Elbrus, something entirely new. At 6, he's never yet been to school. Used his fist, yes, in true Chechen street style, where all the boys are urged to fight. Held a pencil? No.
The school, it's an oasis of learning and love, a welcoming for youngsters from all over the world.
So many young lives withholding their harm, their hurt turned inward. But here, safe, valued, fed, a flicker of eye contact, a glimmer of trust, connection made. Joints together, 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 but joints together, everyone. We are here together, together, together. We are here together, everyone. Yay! Well done, Year 2. What a treat for all of us this morning. A song about everybody together and a dinosaur dance. Thumbs up for Year 2, everybody. Now, it's time for you to get back to your classrooms, but I do need you to be as quiet as mice, so we don't wake up any sleeping dinosaurs on the way back. Oh, and have a lovely day, all of you. If I could just have the senior management team in a huddle, I just want to check we're all on the same page for this inspection today. Look, I don't want anybody to worry. We're going to carry on exactly as normal. Is going to see us just the way we are. Oh, I am so sorry I've had to put us in this room with no windows, but the
That's quite all right, Miss Price, that's quite all right. Right, I've been going through the essential statistics and details about your school and your social footprint, as it were.
You have?
Yes, I see you have 248 pupils.
speaking 40 different languages, 3/4 are on free school meals.
No, I have done the figures. It's 72%.
Okay.
And yes, I see you do have a high rate of mobility.
Churn.
I beg your pardon.
Well, that's what we call it, churn. For example, it's only mid-November now, but we've already lost 27 children since September and we've gained 18. That's our churn, it's our rolling turnover.
Yes, well, it is a very high rate of churn, as you put it, and I can see that there are problems here.
Can you? Can you really? The parents of these children have nothing at all.
Are they local?
Some, but most of them are London boroughs.
London?
Some of the London boroughs, they pay our city council to take these people. 3 months
rent up front. And at the end of that 3 months, they still have nothing. They have no home, they have no income, they have no bank account, which of course brings us to the first hurdle. Because they don't have a bank account, they can't claim any state benefits, and they may not have the right documentation anyway. Passports, immigration papers.
And why not?
Well, if they've come in on the back of a lorry, the traffickers may well have stolen their passports. Sometimes they just give them the wrong papers at the immigration ports.
It happens.
Oh, it certainly does. That brings us to the second hurdle. Because they may not have the right paperwork, the landlords round here can charge the highest possible rents for the worst properties. Are you still with me?
Yes, yes.
Then there's the third hurdle, employment. Well, the only work these people can get is cash in hand, sundry labour, scrap metal, car wash, nail bars for the women, and worse, much, much worse. Then there's the fourth hurdle. Lots of the schools around here, especially the secondary schools, they won't take these children because, of course, they may well be low achievers and they've got all manner of social and psychological problems. All that does is bring their Ofsted ratings down.
Look, Miss Price, as I said, I do understand that there are problems, but you need to understand there is a system.
A system. Can I tell you something? When I first came to this school, I made the most dreadful mistake. I arranged for a non-uniform day.
Oh, dress down Fridays. Well, they are popular.
Yeah, it was our children in need day, and we had had them at the previous schools that I'd worked at, but here I made the most awful error. Do you know why?
Let's see. Yes, I think I can imagine what happens. Normally, pupils pay for the privilege of not coming in school uniform. Just a small amount that goes into the school kitty. And from what you said, I can well imagine that these pupils, or at least their parents, couldn't afford even that small amount. Am I right?
Do you know, I'd worked that much out for myself. I knew we couldn't charge them. But come the day, they all turned up in their school uniforms.
Perhaps they didn't understand the concept.
They didn't have any other clothes to wear. These are the children in need.
Look, Miss Price, as I've said, I do understand the problem, but we have to move on. Right, now, the National Phonics Test in Year 1, which I am sure you agree is a basic educational building block upon which so much subsequently depends.
Yeah.
Now, Ofsted require that pupils doing the National Phonics Test in Year 1 achieve highly.
We got 67%.
Achieve highly?
I'd have thought 67% was quite high, or at least getting there, especially considering one of the children is a formerly Congolese boy soldier.
Oh, Miss Price, really? In Year 1, age 5, I don't think so.
He was probably 9. It's where we needed to place him. It was an achievement getting him to speak.
Whatever. But Ofsted require that pupils doing the National Phonics Test in Year 1 achieve highly. And achieving highly in Ofsted terms is getting 90% or above. You barely made satisfactory.
Well, you know, satisfactory, that's something we could build on at this school.
No, I'm afraid not. Satisfactory, it's a category that's been ruled out.
Why?
It leads to complacency.
So, satisfactory doesn't actually mean satisfactory anymore.
In a nutshell, yes.
So in spite of the tremendous achievements we've made at this school, and our children overcoming the most formidable obstacles, my school is
Still not achieving the nationally required standards. I'm sorry, Miss Price, but you know I do have to implement the system. It's an educational project that is nationwide. I have to ensure that it is the same in each school. I don't have the...
I know initiative is such a luxury item these days.
Whatever. Now, moving on, when I wanted to speak to your family liaison officer, the school secretary told me she was off premises, but the schedule...
No, she's off premises, doing her job, liaising with families. She's taken a group of them down to the bank this morning to try and get bank accounts open. creches around here, so it's a 40-minute walk to the nearest one, and then it takes over an hour to process each application. She's under tremendous pressure.
Even so, if the schedule could be amended so that it reads correctly. It's a small point, but these small points add up and they are important, so I'm sure you understand this, Bryce. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm just going to get myself a glass of water.
No, I'll get it for you.
No, that's all right, Miss Bryce.
No, it isn't all right. This is what I tried to explain to you this morning. It's why I had you arrive at 7:30 a.m. It's why we're sitting in a windowless room. Your suit.
My suit?
The children see a strange man in a suit going through school records. They'll tell their parents. They'll assume you're from customs and immigration. I wouldn't have a child left in this school tomorrow morning. So you see, I just had to use my initiative.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
When you could die, why would you bother to find something kind to say? Why would you bother to love your own neighbor? And why would you bother to love your own brother when love's so expensive these days?
With the children all at school, the house is quiet, empty. Adela comes down into the kitchen. She makes herself a cup of coffee and immediately feels sick. Hello, Adela.
Khalid, I think I'm pregnant. In fact, I know I am.
Oh, but that's good news, isn't it? Think of it. A child of ours born in the United Kingdom.
Well, look, I haven't said anything to the children yet. Hosanna, she could have problems with this.
No. As soon as the child is born, they will all know it, believe me.
And so Adela goes out to find buckwheat flour, freedom, and dumplings. Make a doctor's appointment on the way. Ardy-doo, darday. Ardy-doo, ardy-day. She listened as he sang and the green wine rang. And Mr. Crabster to room 12, please. Mr. Crabster to room 12. Listened as he sang and the greenwood rang. And he won the heart of Mr. Crabster to room 12.
I'm coming, Doctor, I'm coming. You should see it back there, it's chock-a-block, and this kid's running riot all over the place. No parental control these days.
Well, you're here now, Mr. Crabstuck.
Doctor,
Yes.
the name, it's not crap stock, it's clap stock. Clap stock.
So sorry. I'm getting changed on the system.
I have to tell him every time we don't apply with the difference.
Now, Mr.
Clap stock.
Clapstock.
I've never had this difficulty with old Dr. Edwards when he was here. I could turn up and get an appointment on the same day. And them cards of these Dana got mixed up like these damn computers.
Now, Mr. Clapstock, what can I do for you? I see you've only recently seen Dr. Ali. He put you on a 3-week course of treatment. You're barely halfway through it.
Oh, that's it, it is. I've got to suffer another 10 days of agony before anyone so much as look at me.
Mr. Clapstock, I do have a very busy waiting room.
Tell me about it. As I said, it's chock-a-block back there, and I've got to say this. I mean, it's a free country, but we have to watch what we say, don't we? But I'm going to say it. There's most of them back there that aren't English. And I'm not talking about the blacks and the Asians, oh no, we've stuck with them, they're here to stay. I'm talking about the Poles and the Romanians. Now, I thought it would be motion for that not to go, but there don't seem to be much going taking place, if you ask me. There seems just to be just as much coming, and I'm all here getting free prescriptions on our NHS. Do you know, sitting back there, I sat next to this young woman, Adina was her name, I caught it. There's got 3 kids with her, and they're all whistling away in some godforsaken language, and there's got another one on the way, so that'll be 4 for us to look after. And the bloke who she's with, he's foreign, a different foreign, Arab of some sort, Carly his name, and they're all here getting free prescriptions on our NHS.
Mr. Clap, will you please keep your head still? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have shouted.
Oh, that's it, isn't it? Shout at me! Someone in my condition! Someone who's worked 50 years for a pension he can barely live off. And Howard Joyce, she used to be a press operator at Everard when he was there. Plus now it's gone. But there's been off her legs for four bloody weeks. And they can't get a doctor to come and see her. And the council knows it's the damn that causes her legs to swell up like balloons. But all they bothered, oh no, they couldn't give a damn. So long as that Adela and Tommy Taliban with her coming here, and no doubt of what they have got a lovely flat all nicely furnished, paid for by the council, paid for by the government, and all the time of
Miss Bingley, come take a seat. Come on, deep breath, deep breath.
Oh, doctor, it's what I keep trying to tell them. It's not my bleeding. It's bile. It's bitter bile. Keeps coming up, burning me up. It's bile. Oh. The day of Adela's tribunal, the day she appeals for refugee status. Now, if she gets it, she will get 5 years. 5 years without having to keep scratching around for Home Office fees. 5 years. And then she will have to apply again. And if she's very lucky a second time, she'll get another 5 years, making the magic figure of 10. 10 years before she can even apply for British citizenship. And she knows she must keep her case spotlessly clean. They will look for the slightest infringement, the slightest excuse. Adela's bundle. No, not the delightful little child she carries in her arms into the courtroom. Adela's bundle is a brown manila folder, packed full of details. Details about her life in Russia, details about her life in Chechnya, but overwhelmingly, details about her life here in England. Photocopies. Photocopies of school reports, therapist reports, head teacher reports, social worker reports, photocopies even of prescriptions and train tickets, all here in Adela's bundle. Adela's future, and that of the children. Adela's life, all dependent upon the Home Office staff.
The place is heaving with humanity. So many from so far, seeking to understand, to be understood. Adela sits in a small side room, a Mackenzie friend, checking and rechecking her story for consistency, for comprehension. Once in session, Adela alone will conduct her fight, under the gaze of the judge and the slicing scrutiny of the Home Office lawyer.
The Home Office lawyer's questions dissect. Well, she's Russian, isn't she? So why can't she just be sent back to Russia?
It's not possible I would be found there.
But her passport says that she's Russian.
Would you please check the passport in the bundle? It is written in Russian, but it says citizen of Chechnya. All children of Chechen fathers. They are Chechens, not a matter of geography. Please understand this.
Then why can't she avail herself of the authorities over there? Go to their law courts, get protection from their police.
Adela takes a deep breath, foraging for the words, the language still freshly forming on her tongue. Here in the UK, you think you have corruption sometimes in your police. They are as pure as spring water as compared to what I know, what all Chechens know. There, justice, protection has to be purchased and the cost is high. The price of not paying is even higher.
The judge listens intently. He asks, what do you think would happen to you if you were returned to Chechnya?
I would be killed very quickly. I wouldn't last a week.
Who do you think would harm you?
My family would kill me. I would just be another woman who had brought shame and dishonour on the family name, and my children, my daughters.
The tears that have been pent up for weeks, for months, now flow down Adela's cheeks.
I cannot even think of this. My daughters, they would also pay for my dishonouring. Their father is cruel. Busana, he said, was his favourite. Why then did he rain blows upon her, restrain her as you would a difficult dog? Sometimes she tried to be my shield, and then we both fled, and then I would have to leave my baby daughter behind here, and Khalid. I need my life. You people, you can give us our lives.
They left the courtroom, sifting for meaning and nuance in everything that was said. She waited weeks. She waited months. Picture this. Night-time in a country area. A car comes hurtling down a country track and screeches to a halt. The doors are thrown open and 3 men get out. The engine is left running, the exhaust idling into the night air. The 3 men reach into the back of the car and they bring out another person, a woman, and they bundle her into a nearby field, where they surround her, laughing, spitting, slapping. And then they start beating, and they beat and beat until she falls to the floor, and then they stab and stab until she's still laughing and joking. They get back in the car, the door slam, the engine coughs, and they drive away into the night, and there are no witnesses, only the pitiless ice of the stars. And in the morning, the crow starts pecking. Ask yourself, what human being would send her back to face that? Or worse, change the wall of some filthy hovel, having to satisfy the darkest needs of desperate men, again and again, and live in hell in life.
Here, Adela will have to sit on a degree, but she has the space to be a wife and a mother, and her children are the hope, for here they can grow and they can thrive, and they will learn. Oh, how quickly they will learn.
Once upon a time, there lived a very pretty little girl. When she was young, sadly, her mother died. Her father remarried, but the little girl's stepmother was mean with 2 ugly daughters. One day, an invitation arrived for kids and birds were holding a ball. When Cinderella arrived at the ball, everyone was stunned by her beauty. As soon as the prince saw Cinderella, he fell in love with her.
Cinderella and the prince soon set a date to be married and live happily ever after.
Adela lost her appeal.
She has made a fresh appeal.
She waits.
We wait.
As waters crumble and recede, for divine ideology, the skinhead and the refugee, you need each other now. Rise up, you old woman, the minute you might try again, and with one voice, your message sent, we need each other now.
We need each other now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Generally, audiences want to know what's happened to Adela since that point. So an update because we're still in close contact with Adela. After 2 years of appeals, having appeals turned down, she finally got a DLR, discretionary leave to remain, for 2.5 years. That runs out in March, so she will be applying again, and this time most likely has actually got to find those astronomical Home Office fees, which have gone up considerably in the last 3 years. So she could be looking at something close to £7,000 to take her family forward for the next discretionary leave to remain. And if she gets that one, she's got another 2.5 years here, and she will have to apply at the end of that 2.5 years, and again may have to find that sum of money to pay the Home Office. She can work a little bit, can work a few hours under discretionary leave to remain. I'm sure we've got loads of experts in this audience this afternoon. And she has trained as an accountant. She can't use her degree here because it's a Russian degree and it's in corporate law and it doesn't apply to the UK. So she's done a quite a low-level accountancy qualification. She can't afford to do the next one yet. And she does some interpreting now and translating across the city. So that's how she's making ends meet. She's still with Harry, but of course under Home Office regulations she's not allowed to live with him. So he has to live elsewhere. If she was found to be living with Harry, her appeal would be completely negated. She'd go back to stage 1 because she would have changed her status. So that's where we're at with Adela at the moment. Does anybody want to ask anything or make a point?
I think one of the things I'm thinking about is the impact this has on their children and them growing up in this sort of British society. And in schools now there's this agenda that's being pushed for British values, and me working with children, I think about what kind of dynamic that creates for their identity as well, having being brought up with this difficult experience and now having to prove themselves as worthy of being in this country is very difficult.
I think, I don't know what's happening in their secondary schools because they've now moved from that primary school into secondary education in the city. They're in Birmingham. What I can say is that that primary school, that teacher would have been so aware of that. 97% of her school population were in temporary accommodation. They were virtually, it was virtually an asylum seeker, refugee school. So it wouldn't have been an issue there. It would have been such a fantastically multicultural approach. I'm not sure what's happening at the next stage. What I can say is that Adela's 2 daughters, who are now teenagers, very young teenagers. Now, Adela was a very westernised woman, and she greatly resented the impact of Kadyrov's Islam in Chechnya, because it was a very, very oppressive use of Islam to keep people under control there. It's part of Kadyrov's toolkit, if you like. As soon as she reached the UK, Adela needed to go Western again. She felt the great need to drop the hijab, everything, and just become who she'd been in Russia. Her 2 daughters have gone into hijab because that's what they have chosen to do. They feel much more comfortable in the city, and that is part of their identity. So what I think is happening with her children is that to a much larger degree than they would have had in Chechnya, they are actually able to exercise choice here about the way they live their lives. the impact of the Chechen experience on them, it wasn't as strong on little Elbrus because he was only 6 when he came over, and he'd had a very different treatment in Chechnya to the 2 daughters, especially the older daughter. But Adila and those 2 daughters had to go through therapy with freedom from torture because they had been abused in ways that we couldn't possibly show in a stage performance. Busana had been chained up like a dog as a punishment. As you can see, reading between the lines, I'm going off your point a little bit now, but I'm just going to point it out. This woman is kidnapped against her will. She then endures marital rape for 8 years before she is able to escape. The children have not been shielded from any of that. Now, what the impact will be on them as they get older, who can tell? But they've not been shielded from anything. Those children were present with us when we went to her tribunals as well. Nothing's hidden from them. Does anybody else want?
How can we help?
What can we do? How can we help? The best thing to do to help, it's hard fighting this system. It's so ingrained now. But the best thing to do is to actually work, offer your services if people have got a bit of free time to work with refugees and asylum seekers. To work with Freedom from Torture, who always need volunteers for bread making classes and conversation classes, English classes, knitting classes, you name it. And it's the same with, I'm sure it's the same with the Refugee and Migrant Centre. Volunteers are absolutely invaluable for building relationships with asylum seekers and refugees. In our experience, working directly with refugees and asylum seekers, the thing they have valued even more than food packs and things, which are important, is time spent with them, going for a walk with them, having a cup of coffee, making them feel normal and part of society. That's the big thing we can do to help. That's the really big thing.
Can I make a suggestion? Sorry.
Yes, please.
We work for a Coventry Refugee and Migrant Centre, and we have a lot of volunteers. So if you would be interested in volunteering with us, and I can have a conversation with you after this, if you're interested.
You might have grabbed yourself a bit of work that you weren't expecting.
No pressure. No pressure.
Another problem that Adila faces, we won't hang on and know that people would, they quite like to get away and process what we've seen and heard, is that there is not a Chechen community here. There may be a tiny cluster in places like London, but there's no established Chechen community here. And also, she's very, very wary and suspicious because she was forcibly married into a Chechen mafia family who do have very long fingers. And that's why she felt she couldn't stay in Russia, because she felt that there was a network there she would be informed on. She would never be safe. And Chechnya, I'm afraid, does have a proven track record now of honour killings. I use that word, you know why I'm using that word, yeah. But that is absolutely certain. That's what would happen to her if she was returned to Chechnya. She wouldn't stand a chance.
What does Felicia think of the bundle?
Pardon?
What did she think of your play?
She saw it once the first time we premiered it. She was extremely grateful that her story was being made to work. Now, not all refugees or asylum seekers, this awful division that the Home Office has sort of instilled in us now, they're not all willing to give that kind of depth of story to what we were strangers when we first met her. We had to build a trust with her. Many people want to keep their story to themselves, or they won't even want to give bits. She just disclosed because she felt it was so important that people knew what happens to people like her from these ambiguous countries, these ambiguous states. So the first time she saw it, she just broke down, really, didn't she? She just cried. Yeah. Because these were her experiences, writ large. Yeah. Even some of her words from her statements from her Bible.
And the children's voices at the end.
They're her children.
They are her children.
Yeah. Do you want to do a little pitch for your
Oh,
poetry book?
if you bear with me, I'm plugging poetry books, so do we have to every performance. This is the 4th booklet. It's not everybody's cup of tea, I know, but the reason why I do is because at £5, every penny goes equally to medical aid for Palestinians and the Dirty Girls of Lesbos. We went out to do some work on some of the Dirty Girls of Lesbos, a most remarkable organisation. There are some men there, but they're based on the island of Lesbos, and they do the immediate aid for the refugees that have been arriving on that island in waves.
From Turkey.
From Turkey.
Making that awful crossing.
And so they do really tremendous work. And also medical aid for Palestinians, of course. We have been out to Palestine for 10 years until COVID. I don't know whether we'll get there again, I don't know. But we see firsthand some of the things that are happening on the ground floor, you know, on the street, the settlers, the way they behave, what they do, is frightening. So, if anybody's interested, just take one from over there, just drop £5 in the box. Every penny goes, the printing costs have already been met, every penny goes equally to medical aid for Palestinians and the Dirty Girls of Lesbos.
Thanks so much, folks, for coming out to see some live theatre. For some people it might be the first time in a couple of years, right? But we really appreciate it. It's good for us as well.
It's
Really,
lovely to be back.
lovely to see you.